Billionaire refuses to tip black waitress. What he learns about her will change his life forever. What if a billionaire's one cruel mistake cost him everything? What if the woman he humiliated was the key to his redemption, and her kindness the very thing that changed his life forever? Maya Williams moved through the upscale Manhattan restaurant like a dancer, her tray balanced with practiced ease, her smile warm but guarded. At 28, she was a striking figure, tall, with deep brown skin that glowed under the soft chandelier light, her braided hair pulled back neatly to reveal sharp, determined eyes. To the patrons of Lucille, she was just another server, invisible unless they needed something. But Maya was anything but invisible. She was a warrior, fighting battles no one in this glittering dining room could imagine. By day, she studied business at City College, her textbooks dog-eared and highlighted, her nights spent poring over notes after grueling shifts. By night, she worked 2 jobs, here at Lucille, where the tips were good but the customers could be brutal, and at a small diner in Harlem, where the hours were long but the community felt like home. Every dollar she earned went toward her tuition and her younger brother, Jamal, who was 16 and autistic. Jamal was her heart, her reason for pushing through the exhaustion. His smile lit up her world, but his needs, therapy, specialized schooling, constant care, were a weight she carried alone. Their parents had passed away 5 years ago in a car accident, leaving Maya to raise Jamal. She'd been 23, just starting to chase her dreams of owning her own business, when life forced her to grow up overnight. Now, every decision she made was for Jamal. She'd found a way to get him into a program that offered therapy, but the costs were staggering, and the scholarships she relied on for school were never guaranteed. Still, Maya didn't complain. She couldn't afford to. Tonight, though, the weight felt heavier. Her professor had emailed her about a missed assignment. She'd been up until 3 a.m. helping Jamal with a meltdown, and the deadline had slipped. Her boss at Lucille had warned her about being late again, and the diner had cut her shifts. As she refilled water glasses and memorized orders, her mind churned. How am I going to pay for Jamal's therapy next month? Will I have to drop a class? The restaurant was packed, the kind of Friday night where the air smelled of money and entitlement. Maya's section included a table of 6, the centerpiece of which was Evan Grant, a tech billionaire whose name was synonymous with power. At 50, Evan was a lean man with salt and pepper hair, a tailored suit, and an aura of impatience. His company, Grant Innovations, had revolutionized data storage, but his reputation was as cold as his products were cutting edge. Stories of his ruthless business tactics, layoffs, corner-cutting, lawsuits, were whispered in boardrooms and splashed across headlines. To Maya, he was just another VIP who expected perfection. She approached his table with her usual grace, pouring wine with precision, offering recommendations with a smile. Evan barely looked at her, his attention on his phone or the 3 colleagues who laughed too loudly at his every word. His requests came fast and sharp. This wine's too warm. Get me another bottle. The steak's overdone. Tell the chef to fix it. Maya complied without hesitation, her professionalism a shield against his brusqueness. She mixed his martini exactly as he specified, gin, not vodka, dry, not dirty, yet when she set it down, he barely acknowledged her. As the night wore on, Maya's exhaustion crept in. She caught a glimpse of herself in the restaurant's mirrored wall, her eyes tired, her smile strained. She thought of Jamal, who was with a neighbor tonight, and wondered if he was okay. She pushed the thought aside and focused on Evan's table, ensuring every detail was perfect. By the time she presented the bill, she was hopeful. A good tip could mean groceries for the week, maybe even a payment toward Jamal's therapy. But when she cleared the table after Evan and his party left, her heart sank. The bill was paid in full, $1,200, including 3 bottles of wine and a caviar appetizer, but the tip line was blank. Not a cent worse, Evan had scrawled a note on the receipt, learn to make a proper cocktail next time. The words hit like a slap. Maya stood frozen, the receipt trembling in her hand. She'd dealt with rude customers before, but this felt personal, a deliberate jab at her effort, her pride. She slipped into the back, her breath shaky. The kitchen noise faded as she leaned against a wall, fighting tears. I did everything right, she thought. Why do they always make me feel like I'm nothing? But there was no time to dwell. Another table needed her, and Jamal was waiting at home. As Maya cleaned up, she overheard the waitstaff whispering about a commotion outside. Reporters had swarmed the restaurant's entrance, their cameras flashing like lightning. Curious, she peeked through the window and saw Evan Grant at the center of it, his face tight with anger as microphones were thrust toward him. The words, lawsuit, and worker safety, floated through the chatter. Maya didn't care much for gossip, but she caught enough to know Evan was in trouble. Something about his company's factories, unsafe conditions, injured workers, a class action lawsuit that could cost him billions. Back home, Maya collapsed onto the couch, her feet throbbing. Jamal was asleep, his sketchbook open to a drawing of a rocket ship. She smiled, brushing a hand over his hair. But her mind was elsewhere. She turned on the TV, and there was Evan again, his face plastered across a news segment. The anchor detailed allegations. Grant Innovations had cut corners on safety protocols, leading to accidents that left workers hospitalized. The lawsuit was gaining traction, and the public was turning on Evan. Social media was brutal, with hashtags like #BoycottGrant trending. Maya should have felt vindicated. The man who'd humiliated her was getting his comeuppance. But something nagged at her. She opened her laptop and Googled Evan Grant, digging past the headlines. That's when she found it, a small article, buried on page 3 of a search, about a foundation funded by Grant Innovations. The foundation had quietly supported programs for underprivileged communities and children with disabilities. One of those programs had awarded Maya her scholarship last year, covering half her tuition. Another had helped her secure funding for Jamal's therapy when insurance denied it. She sat back, stunned. The man who'd left her no tip, who'd sneered at her work, was indirectly responsible for the two things keeping her life together. The article mentioned Evan's insistence on anonymity, no press releases, no public credit. Yet here he was, vilified by the world, with no one telling this side of his story. Maya's emotions churned, anger, gratitude, confusion. She thought of Jamal, whose therapy had given him a chance to communicate in ways she'd never thought possible. She thought of her scholarship, the only reason she could still chase her degree. And she thought of Evan's scrawled note, his cold dismissal. Who is this man? She wondered. And why does he hide the good he does? The next day, Maya made a decision. She couldn't let this go. She needed to understand Evan Grant, to thank him and confront him. Using her scholarship's contact information, she reached out to the foundation, explaining her story. To her shock, they passed her message to Evan's assistant, and within hours, she received a reply. Evan would meet her at Lucille that evening. When Maya arrived at the restaurant, her heart pounded. She wore her uniform, not because she was working, but because she wanted Evan to see her as she was, a waitress, a student, a sister. Evan arrived alone, his usual swagger replaced by a weariness that surprised her. His suit was impeccable, but his eyes were tired, the weight of the media storm evident. They sat at a quiet table in the corner. Maya took a deep breath and began. Mr. Grant, I need to say something. The other night, you treated me like I was nothing. You didn't tip me, and you left a note that made me feel small. But I found out about your foundation. You helped me get my scholarship. You helped my brother get therapy. I don't understand you, but I need to thank you, and I need to know why you act the way you do. Evan's face was unreadable at first, but as Maya spoke, something shifted. She told him about her life, growing up in Harlem, losing her parents, raising Jamal. She spoke of the microaggressions she faced daily as a black woman in a service job, the way customers like him often looked through her. She described the nights she stayed up studying, the fear of failing Jamal, the constant juggling of bills and dreams. Her voice was steady but raw, each word carrying years of struggle. Evan listened, his hands clasped tightly. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice low. I didn't see you, he admitted. Not really. I was raised to believe success means never showing weakness, never admitting fault. I built my company from nothing, and I learned to be ruthless because that's what the world demanded. But I never meant to hurt people like you. He paused, his eyes distant. My sister had autism. She died young, and I couldn't save her. That's why I started the foundation, quietly, because I didn't want it to be about me. But I've been so focused on winning, on surviving, that I forgot what it's like to be human. The conversation stretched on, raw and unfiltered. Maya shared stories of Jamal's progress, how he'd started drawing to express himself. Evan spoke of the pressure of his world, the loneliness of being at the top. For the first time, Maya saw him not as a billionaire or a villain, but as a man carrying his own scars. As they talked, Maya noticed a shift in Evan's demeanor. He wasn't just listening, he was hearing her. But then came the twist that changed everything. Evan revealed something he'd never told anyone outside his inner circle. The lawsuit against his company wasn't just about worker safety. It was personal. A former executive, bitter over being fired, had fabricated evidence to exaggerate the claims, hoping to destroy Evan's reputation. The truth was, Evan had been working to improve conditions, investing millions in safety upgrades, but the media had latched onto the scandal without digging deeper. "I'm not saying I'm innocent," Evan said, his voice breaking. "I've made mistakes. I've been arrogant, blind. But I'm trying to fix things, and no one believes me." He looked at Maya, his eyes searching. "You're the first person who's seen me as more than a headline." "Why?" Maya didn't hesitate. "Because I know what it's like to be judged before you get a chance to explain. People look at me and see a waitress, a black woman, someone who doesn't matter. But I'm more than that. And so are you." The words hung between them, a bridge across worlds. Evan's shoulders slumped, as if a weight had lifted. For the first time, he saw Maya not as a server, but as a force, a woman whose resilience and compassion rivaled anything he'd encountered in boardrooms. Before they parted, Evan did something unexpected. He pulled out his checkbook and wrote a check for $10,000. Not just a tip, but a gesture of respect. "This is for the other night," he said. "And for everything you're carrying." He hesitated, then added, "I'd like to do more. Your tuition, consider it covered. And Jamal's therapy, I'll make sure he gets what he needs." Maya's breath caught. She wanted to refuse, to hold on to her pride, but she thought of Jamal, of the future she was fighting for. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick. "But this doesn't change what I said. You need to see people, really see them." Evan nodded. "I'm learning," he said. "Thanks to you." Over the next weeks, Evan's life began to shift. He hired a PR firm to tell the truth about his company's efforts, and the lawsuit began to lose steam as evidence came to light. He became more involved with his foundation, meeting the people it helped, learning their stories. Maya's words stayed with him, a reminder that wealth meant nothing without humanity. For Maya, the change was just as profound. With her tuition covered, she could focus on her studies and Jamal. She started a small blog, sharing her experiences as a black woman in the service industry, and it gained traction, inspiring others. She and Evan stayed in touch, their unlikely friendship a testament to the power of understanding. 1 year later, Maya stood at her college graduation, Jamal cheering loudly from the audience. Evan was there too, sitting quietly in the back, a proud smile on his face. He'd learned to listen, to see the world through eyes not his own. And Maya, no longer just a waitress, had become a voice for change, her story proof that even the smallest encounters can spark a revolution. Their meeting at Lucille had been a collision of worlds, but it was also a beginning, a reminder that empathy and courage can bridge any divide. As Maya walked across the stage, diploma in hand, she knew she'd changed Evan's life. But more than that, she'd changed her own, proving that no dream is too big, no struggle too heavy, when you carry it with love.